So recently a book was written, a biography about Chacham Baruch. I'm very happy for him, and I think it's lovely that they wrote that book. Um, the author of the book, Nachman Seltzer, he wrote some things about my father which weren't accurate, and I feel it would be good to just to set the record straight. And I noticed when there was another book or two that I'm aware of where they mention my father, and they don't have nice things to say about my father, but they don't mention his name. They create a pseudonym. So in this case, they created a name that's Nachman Seltzer. I think Yitzchak Muad. Muad is a pejorative, by the way. So they do this, and I'm not sure why. Like, why don't you just mention the name? I mean, if what you're writing is accurate, so say this person did this and this. Why do they change the name? And again, this isn't the first book where they change the name. I think the reason is, I think it just tells you about the psychological state of the people who wrote these books, because they know that they're lying. And because they know that they're lying, Lashon hara, Hotza'at Shem Ra, Min Devar Sheker Tirhak. So I think they changed the name of my father to, so to speak, hedge their bets. That's what I think. I have no explanation. I've never seen a situation, at least I haven't, maybe there are, but where somebody does something bad and everybody knows about the bad thing that this person did publicly, and that we have to change the name of the person. I don't understand what would be the purpose of that. But in this case, they changed it to Mu'ad, which is really, as I said, is pejorative. So I don't think Nachman Seltzer, I think he did a disservice to Rabbi Baruch by writing this passage. He could have just avoided this whole episode. He didn't have to mention my father. It's not what defines, the hate that we have towards others doesn't define our essence as human beings. My father always taught me not to hate. And when I would go to Shaddai Sion, my father would pull me aside and say, don't disrespect any other rabbi, irrespective of the politics. And he was referring to Rabbi Baruch, right? Because my father knew that I might be hurt by some of the things that happened. He said, don't disrespect anyone. And when we wrote my father's biography, we would never mention anything bad about anyone. We had nothing bad to say about anyone. We didn't have hate in our heart. My father certainly did not have hate in his heart. And there seems to be this fa'ur derangement syndrome among some people in the community, and that's okay. People are entitled to their respective pathologies, whatever those pathologies are. I understand that people have difficulties in life and they develop some sort of mental derangement. So it could be Trump derangement syndrome, it could be BB derangement syndrome, and there are some people suffering from Fa'ur derangement syndrome. So that's the only way I can explain why the need to mention my father's name. It's an episode that happened so many years ago, and nobody really cares about this. And you're saying, so why am I mentioning it? Because it's my father, and I know the truth. And at first I was thinking I shouldn't answer, but no, somebody wrote this book and they mischaracterized something that happened, and I think it would be wrong for me as a matter of kibbut avayim. The Torah says kabed et avicha v'et imecha, so I take no pleasure in making this video, but I feel like I have a obligation by the Torah to make this video and basically set the record straight. So if you look at this book again by Natan or Nachman, I think Nachman Seltzer, maybe I missaid the name, page 393 of the book. So I'm just going to read the second paragraph. During one of the funerals that took place during that period, Chacham Baruch was there when Mu'ad walked up to the podium. And again, they refer to my father in a pejorative. I don't know why just mention his name. Why do you have to mention? Okay. Intent on delivering a eulogy for the deceased. Chacham Baruch saw what was happening and reacted rapidly and decisively. Picking up the shofar that was lying on the table, Chacham Baruch began to blow it as loudly as he could, drowning out Mu'ad's voice and not allowing him to speak. In the beginning, Mu'ad tried to ignore Chacham Baruch and continued speaking, but the rabbi didn't stop blowing the shofar, sending out an endless stream of piercing blasts until Mu'ad realized that he wasn't going to stop and descended from the podium. Only then did Chacham Baruch put down the shofar. So that's the episode. A couple things before I even address what actually happened. They write about the blowing of the shofar here, like, I don't know, they just conquered Har HaBayit in the 6-day war, and Shlomo Goren says Har HaBayit b'yadenu when he blows the shofar, and there's a whole miracle, by the way, a series of miracles that took place with that shofar. That was something to write about, the blowing of the shofar, this is not the shofar of the Mashiach. It's not like, by blowing the shofar, the Beth HaMikdash descended for the heavens and the Yeshua came, but it's a little, I just found the style here to be a bit ironic. How about we put it like that? But I wanted to address what happened. So I'll give you a little context. So we used to pray in Bet Torah, but we were always very close with Mickey Carey and Yaakov Arama. Mickey and Yaakov Arama, Alehem HaShalom, Sadiqim. Alehem HaShalom, they used to be the Hevra Kadisha, they used to be in the Hevra Kadisha. And Mickey and Yaakov Arama, there was tremendous love between them. So my father used to teach them Torah, and it was mamash ve'achut hamshulash. It was a special, Mickey teaching Ta'amim, and you knew Mickey. He was the greatest. Nobody like him for Ta'amim, for reading the Torah, for Hazanut. It was so beautiful. And the Yaakov Arama was a Sadiq Yesod Olam. Really, what a Sadiq. Hasidah Kadisha. I wouldn't say that about a lot of people. And then there was my father. My father was a great Chacham. His knowledge of Torah, and I met great. I did meet great Chachamim. So I have the way to compare and to. But okay, so it is. So what happened is we used to pray in Bet Torah, but then as Yaakov Arama got a little older, my father decided we're going to start praying in Meg and David of Bensonhurst. Now you can imagine that was quite a walk, Meg and David of Bensonhurst. Sometimes we go there 3 times on Shabbat. We go there Friday night, we go there Shabbat, of course, Shabbat morning, and then Shabbat afternoon. It was a lot of walking, but we always loved being there because as a child, I recognized Yaakov Arama was a Sadiq. I recognized that Mickey was a special Neshama, and it just was beautiful for me to be there. And then I saw the interactions between my father, Yaakov Arama, Mickey, and very special relationship between the three. And then there was another person there, Maxi Shasha, Shibadel Hayim Arukim. And what happened is that Shabbat morning, after the services, we finish Shachrit, Musaf, and then we'd leave the Knis, Meg and David, we'd leave from the back door. There was like an exit door there. It would kind of go out to this like Haser, and then you'd cross the street, and there was another Knis there. I think it was called Knis Patesh, if I remember correctly. So we'd enter Knis Patesh as a shortcut because we want to exit Knis Patesh from the other side. Mickey lived right across the street from the other side of Knis Patesh, as I recall. And my father would always say, we have to stop. Velo ya'asena kapen daria. It's haram to make a synagogue into a shortcut. So we would say Tehillim, and then we would continue onwards. Okay. And then we go to Mickey's house, and Pat, Mickey's wife, would make the best maza, sambusa, all these special foods. She used to make me chocolate chip cookies. I was young, and it was very beautiful. We drink a little arak, Yaakov Arama, Maxi, myself, Mickey, and it was real. And of course, my father, Hareni Kaparat Mishkavo. So that's what we used to do on Shabbatot. So you can understand that we had this special relationship with Yaakov Arama, and he saw in my father a great Chacham, which of course my father was, and. What happened is that in 1980, Yaakov Arama passed away. Okay, so of course we went to the funeral, and I was there. So I don't think Nachman Seltzer, did I get the name right? Nachman Seltzer, I don't think he was in the funeral. Right? I'm pretty sure that he wasn't. I was in the funeral, so I saw what happened. I was 15 years old. I remember very clearly what happened. So Rabbi Baruch spoke, And now, Jacob Arama's daughter, Andrea, she was sitting like in the second row. My father was in the first row. And she told Maxie Shasho, because Maxie Shasho was kind of running the funeral, she told Maxie, I want Chacham Fa'u speaking. Yaakov Arama, my father, loves Chacham Fa'u, and he instructed that he wants Chacham Fa'u to speak in his funeral. And my father kind of pushed back. He didn't want to do it because my father was concerned about the potential dispute that might arise. Let's put it that way. And what happened is that they insisted. Maxie insisted. Andrea insisted, and they told my father, he wanted you to speak. And so my father agreed. Unlike the book that implies that somehow my father wanted to speak and he jumped up to speak. No, that's not what happened at all. They insisted. And finally my father got up to speak. 3 words, not 3 words into the speech. And Chacham Baruch took the shofar and he started blowing the shofar. And at this point my father stopped speaking. Maxie, and I was there, I saw it. Maxie got up and he stood next to my father and he put his arm around my father. And he was crying. And my father was saying a tefillah, he was praying. I saw my father moving his lips. I don't know what tefillah he said, and I was afraid to ask him. But this was a tefillah. And when my father says a tefillah, it's like... Anyway, Rabbi Baruch started saying Kaddish, and he said the funeral is now over. Mickey Carey, he was standing by the teva. He burst into tears. He burst into tears and he began to cry. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood something was happening, but I didn't understand why he was crying so. So Mickey was very, very, very close with Yaakov Arama. Yaakov Arama was like a father figure for him. And he was standing on the teva because part of the plan of the funeral was not over. Part of the plan of the funeral was Mickey, who loved Pizmonim. It was like in his neshama. He wanted to sing 2 Pizmonim for Yaakov Arama. And when he realized that he's not going to be singing those Pizmonim, he started crying. I was young, but I remember the pandemonium that ensued. It was not kavod hamet, what happened. It was not kavod of the people who were burying their relative. It was not kavod of Mickey Carey. It was not kavod of a great chacham, because whatever they thought about my father or not, it didn't matter. He was a great chacham. I never met a person who knew Gemara like my father knew. I never met a person who knew Rishonim like my father knew. I never met a person who knew Acharonim like my father knew. And I met a lot of Chachamim. But my father's memory of books was madhil harayon. It was scary. And we had so many books. And he knew all the books. It was unbelievable. So I'm just sharing this story because, again, I'm happy for Rabbi Baruch. I'm happy that his family or somebody, maybe his students, somebody decided to honor him. That's great. But this Nachman Seltzer, I don't think he was in the funeral. Certainly what he wrote in the book shows that he was not in the funeral. Had he been in the funeral, he would know that that's not what happened. I just had a need to clear up my father's name, so people understand what really took place in this funeral. I take no pleasure in posting this video. Again, I want to respect people. I want to, especially if people pass away. Rabbi Baruch passed away, and I believe that I was careful not to say anything bad about him. I did describe what happened. I don't think that what happened was a good thing. I don't know why they had to mention it in the book. Why mention that? Why would you do that? It's not something that I don't think he's proud of him. I don't think anybody would be proud of what happened. I mean, I understand people have emotional reactions, and in the heat of the moment, they do things that maybe they regret later on. Why mention that in the middle of the funeral, he blew the shofar? This is actually in the book. Right? I'm not making this thing up, right? This is in the book. Why mention that? Don't you people who wrote the book, don't you understand how this comes out? Even without the background that I gave. Don't you understand how this doesn't bring any honor? So this is what happened. This is the story. You can go to Maxi Shasho. He's in Bet Torah. He was there. He knows exactly what happened. And I hope that from this point onwards, people don't have this fa'ul derangement syndrome. I hope it dissipates. I hope a few people who still have it get cured and make teshuvah. Yitamu chata'im min ha'aretz u'rsha'im odenam barechi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah.